I want to know everything there is to know about you.
I am going to introduce me.
You must have spotted her by now. She's always there.
Don't I deserve love?
Somebody has to like me best.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Don't Know Her podcast. I am Scott and I'm joined as always by Michael. How are you doing?
I am very good and I cannot wait to talk about this very important person.
This is going to be an intriguing one. This is an exciting one. This week we are talking about a global megastar, which is perhaps a little different from what we've done before. But do you know this global megastar's film history? Maybe bits and pieces, but we decided it was a good little path for us to venture down and have a wee dig into. So, which global megastar, your favourite of all time super diva, are we talking about, Michael?
It's Kylie. Kylie Jenner has a lot to say about that, but it's Kylie Minogue.
Ugh. Yeah, no, Kylie Jenner can piss off.
Kylie Jenner tried to trademark the name Kylie. And of course, Kylie Minogue had a lot of thoughts about that
She did.
and prevented it, as it should be. How dare Kylie Jenner behave in such a capitalist fashion? Those Yanks.
How dare, how very, very dare.
And you're dead right. Kylie Minogue is a megastar, particularly outside of America. Like, she is equal, if not better in some eyes, than someone like Madonna.
Tread
Gay fight. No. But it's interesting when we looking at her filmography, because she did start as an actor and had huge success as Charlene Mitchell in Neighbours, the Australian soap opera between 1986 and 1988. There was 20 million people watching her get married on this show to Jason Donovan, who most people will know. I was not even born at that point, but I know.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I would have thought she would have been in it for much longer than 2 years, actually, so that's interesting.
No, she made a huge imprint on that show. It's this tomboyish young woman. She's in her 20s. And people loved her. So maybe it's not surprising then that she would look at different avenues of how to utilize that stardom. Sure. And she became very quickly this pop star and a really successful pop star. And that is how we all know her, essentially. So she has had hit after hit after hit. Last year, her most recent album went to number one, making her the first woman to have a number one album in the UK charts for 5 consecutive decades. This is how successful she is. She's got a Grammy, she's an OBE, she has any award probably that you can think of for music. And as I'm here to claim, gay people love her, but loads of people love her. Yes. But she has a huge gay following.
Sure.
But it is interesting, as she has expressed her interest in acting, but hasn't, for whatever reasons, explored that. I mean, the reasons might be how critics received her in her initial films. Her first film, The Delinquents, was released in 1989. It was very successful in Australia and UK, going to number one. But critics were not kind. One critic in particular, referred to her as having as much charisma as cold porridge, which is not much charisma for those unaware what cold porridge is like. And then, her pop career took off. She infamously did Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Of course.
And was described in a very unflattering way as the worst English-speaking actor to exist. So not very supportive comments there. And it's not really until Moulin Rouge in 2001 where she is kind of in a very successful film, both critically and commercially, as The Green Fairy. And then there's kind of a whole range of films she has done between then and now, including an adaptation of the classic children's TV show The Magic Roundabout, where she voiced Florence. a cameo in a Bollywood film, Blue, where she plays herself. Holy Motors, Leo Carax's movie. Jack and Diane, 20,000 Days on Earth, the Nick Cave documentary, San Andreas with Dwayne Johnson, and all those films. They're cameos or, a few days on set, that sort of thing. But in 2018, we get Kylie Minogue in a proper film, in a proper role in Swinging Safari, which is directed by Stephen Elliott, who directed Priscilla, Queen of the Desert back in the 90s. And she's as key to that film as anyone else in that cast. And it's really fascinating to watch her do that. So Kylie, it feels like she has the hunger to be a successful actor. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, it hasn't clicked.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting one because it's something that she has spoken about longing for quite a bit. I think there was many discussions that she had in the press maybe about 10 years ago or so, where it was always the thing about cracking America, because Kylie's very known in America, but probably only primarily within perhaps the gay community and a little bit broader, but she kind of hasn't cracked it by many standards. And when asked about it a lot, she would say that she was far less interested in that than she was in being offered interesting movie roles, because at that point she certainly hadn't been offered leads or kind of big parts. So it is something that she was hungry for, which I guess does make it curious that more people didn't leap onto that and say, let's get the Kylie Minogue on our film.
Well, I was even thinking things like Love Actually or any of those sorts of huge ensemble things where they sometimes have cameos from people or even a little part, because Kylie can act. I'm going to say that right now. There are films where she's not good in. There's bad films, there's good films, there's good performances, bad performances. But Kylie Minogue is well able to act. So why, as you say, people haven't kind of jumped on that fact is mad to me when she has been so open about wanting to do it. And maybe she has been selective, and this might be a good way to bring in some of her films. But that experience on Street Fighter, both, making that film and the end result being not great. So Street Fighter is an adaptation of the popular game where Jean-Claude Van Damme is fighting Raul Julia. And it is not good. It's not good. Kylie Minogue plays a sergeant. Basically, she's a sergeant that's also an echo of Jean-Claude Van Damme. So she's just kind of repeating things he does. She does get to do the Street Fighter sort of pose when they punch, when she's fighting. She gets to do things like that. She has some really silly pieces of dialogue.
He doesn't like women, does he?
Oh, no. No, he doesn't like journalists. I assure you it's an equal opportunity dislike.
But overall, it is a bad film, and she is bad in it. So I can imagine that sort of experience, particularly because, it was a big budget mainstream film, would put you off making more movies.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I can't speak to Street Fighter because I've never before, to my knowledge, seen a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, and I wasn't too keen to change that trend for this one. Although, no, I should have given it a bash to see what Kylie was up to, but by your description there, I don't think I missed out too much.
It's easy to tear Kylie down, particularly in Street Fighter. But what I'm a bit confused about, looking at the reviews for The Delinquents, is how people reacted to her in that film. The Delinquents is a story which is this kind of a soppy teenage novel sort of thing. And it's a young woman meets a young man in a kind of a conservative town. She is from a middle to upper class family. He's from a working class family.
He's trying to find me. I know he is. You never even gave him a chance.
Don't make a mess of your life, Lola. Forget him. Men are all the same.
You're the one to give advice about men.
They fall in love. They have sex. She gets pregnant. And the film just kind of keeps rolling on and rolling on and rolling on with all the drama, like all these sorts of things happening to her. There's an abortion. They get lost. Kylie dyes her hair blonde, has like a whole like kind of Olivia Newton-John-esque transformation in Greece, but without any of the fun, because she is like hand to mouth trying to survive. And Kylie Minogue is given an awful lot on her shoulders in that film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was thinking of The Notebook, and say if you took away the Gina Rowlands character and that whole storyline, and you took away the Joan Allen mother character, and you'd be left with Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling, which, you know, is great. Like, I was entertained by the film, but that's a heavy thing to put on a young actor when there's not much else of interest going on in the film.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's sort of, I not subtly, it's sort of doing the Romeo and Juliet are echoing on that. They even talk about sort of Romeo and Juliet, and this is their Romeo and Juliet story, these two characters. So it is certainly not the most interesting film. It's something we've seen a million times before, and many a time done better. It also makes me think of, say, like Terrence Malick films like Badlands from back in the 70s, these type things. But this is, it is kind of far soapier. I guess maybe it was a natural kind of transition to go from Neighbours into this role. But she is a really lovely presence in it. I am also confused if people thought she was really bad in it, because I mean, I certainly don't think she was bad. I kind of loved seeing this sort of really luminous sweetness, that's just really innocent, vulnerable kind of beginnings to this character. And yes, there's an arc and she kind of moves away from that a bit. But besides the soapiness, I think she's quite strong in it. I think the problems with it is more how it's written rather than her. But like you say, it's a hard one to go with because it is so choppy. It's the timeline that it's just like what am I trying to say? The timeline that it's just skipping through. Basically, it's mental. It's like they meet, they fall in love, they get pregnant, they do this, they do that. They're then not together, then they are together, then he goes away, then she goes away, then. And not that that's an unusual thing in films, but from like minute to minute in this one, it's very impressive that they're cramming so much in. But it does make it quite confusing, and it loses a lot of its weight. But I mean, I didn't much like it necessarily, but there was things about it that were charming. I kind of liked the score. I found the score to be very nostalgic. It was sort of old, like TV dramas from the like 80s, 90s vibes, kind of a very sweet, pleasant score, which did sweep me into it for a start. When it started, I was like, I'm going to like this. I like the tone. I like what it's hitting. But as it sort of moved into more familiar terrain, and then sort of trying to kind of present the darker sides of their relationship or whatever, I lost interest. But I thought she was good. She has this presence. She has such a sweetness to her, which is why people fell in love with her so much in Neighbours. And that is very well utilized, especially at the beginning. She is adorable at the beginning of this film.
So adorable. There's the bit where, like, the meet cute, so they both go to the cinema, but the tickets are sold out for Marlon Brando in The Wild One. And the boy, the love interest, played by Charlie Schlatter, he decides he's going to take away one of the letters from the sign. And Kylie spots that the cinema owners come out as Charlie's walking down this ladder, and she comes back and is like being charming with the cinema person, but also is looking at this Charlie to tell him, like, don't come down yet.
Will you be getting Rock Around the Clock back again anytime?
Doubt it. Didn't like it.
It was really popular.
Not with normal people.
Presently, the King's Cup developed into a two-crew race with New South Wales and Victoria fighting it out. The South Australian crews tailing the field inside the final half mile.
I've seen it 3 times anyway.
Me too.
She is, as you say, luminous. Like, she's wearing this very 1950s style, what do you call, like, not bowl, but like skirt that goes out. And then they run away together, like, gleefully with the letter from the sign. And I agree, like, you're just like, wow, this is lovely. And it is a shame the film and the filmmaking doesn't mature along with the characters.
That's a good way.
Because they're dealing with a lot of interesting themes and very heavy themes. But having said all that, like what you said, like, Kylie is good. Like, I just honestly was so shocked that how good Kylie was. And, you know, when I say bad review, I guess what, you know, it's that cold, like cold porridge, referring to her in that sort of way. It's just like, well, why? But it was a stretch and a real bold move to go into this role. Like, that's a hard task to do that. And there's many actors who in their 20s would maybe take a lead role, but they wouldn't be required to do so much, and they would grow into their acting style. Like, I'm thinking of loads of actors that I really enjoy. Like, I would say Nicole Kidman did not wake up and suddenly was a great actor. I think she worked and got into her, like, finessing that. Helena Bonham Carter, as in A Room with a View, is not amazing in it, but she is not carrying the heavy weight of that film. But Kylie is given so much to do in this. So maybe it's not a shock then. People would be like, nah, that's not good enough. And then she decides, well, fuck it. Why, I'm going to make The Locomotion and Better the Devil You Know.
Locomotion. Yeah.
I did. She's on a lot of trains in this film, and I did think, like, it's a real shame they couldn't put Locomotion underneath that, but maybe that's a bit on the nose for a film where a lot of things are on the nose. That would have been too much.
No, so instead she took a step back in time.
Very funny. Well, it's taken us, 20 minutes or so to put in the puns. But, I mean, there's not much to say about Biodome, which was also in a 90s film she did, where she plays a scientist called Petra. And if you Google it, the one thing that will come up is how she talks about a carrot being important while, like, imitating giving it a blowjob.
Carrot is a miracle.
And you're a miracle too, Petrie.
So honestly, like, Kylie did have to wait. So this woman has been successful since 1986, and it's taking until 2001 to have a hit, artistically celebrated film, an Oscar-winning film. And she plays the part of
the Green Fairy.
Yeah, so Satine, strangely, was taken by someone else. So Kylie...
Another Australian.
At least she wasn't. I feel like the cast list for Moulin Rouge is like whore number 5. So I'm not... So at least Kylie... Although it would have been fun to see Kylie Minogue as part of, you know, the dancing can people. So. But that would have required a lot of her time, where her pop career was really successful. So yeah, she plays the Green Fairy. And apparently this is like a last minute idea of Baz Luhrmann's, was to cast Kylie, because it was all... If people don't know what Moulin Rouge is, stop listening to us and go and watch it.
Immediately.
I understand why someone wouldn't like Moulin Rouge. It is very garish. It is in your face. It is an MTV music video from the early 90s spread over a film. But it wears its heart on its sleeve. Or even, like, it's just basically exploding. It's like shouting at you, like, all you need is love. Like, that's literally saying it again and again. Ewan McGregor runs around shouting in the movie all the time. He's like, no! It's like, just... Everybody is at, like, 150%.
Oh, absolutely. This is a dialed-up film.
Everything. And Kylie Minogue fits so well into it. So... And it's actually, watching it this time, it starts off, and Ewan McGregor is this penniless writer who wants to make his name in Paris, and he accidentally gets involved in these bohemian people who are trying to impress Zidler, who owns the Moulin Rouge, and they want to be programmed. So he gets involved in that. They somehow land on writing The Sound of Music, the song, and they celebrate. They're like, we've found a genius. And then he's like, no, I need to go away. Like, my dad told me not to do it. And they then say,
do you believe in beauty?
Yes.
Freedom?
Yes, of course. Truth? Yes.
Love? Love. Love. Above all things, I believe in love. Love is like oxygen. Love is a many splendid thing. Love lifts us up where we belong. All you need is love.
And there's this big celebration. Cut to them taking absinthe, and Kylie Minogue arrives.
I am the Green Fairy.
With the sound of music.
Kylie is absinthe. She's on the bottle. She's this little fairy holding it. I know it's not a visual medium, but I am.
No, he is
making myself
poised,
like Kylie
sort of.
Minogue.
Yeah, just like Kylie. For a second, I thought it was Kylie.
And then it's like a little minx. She kind of teases them. She shouts. She sings the Sound of Music herself. And then she literally screams. The camera like whirls into the Moulin Rouge, and bam, we have Can. And it is like, it's delirious. I remember where I was watching this film.
Me too. And I specifically remember this moment as the moment where I was like, oh my days, this is what I've been waiting my whole life to watch. Moulin Rouge is also categorically one of my absolute favorites. And I must say here, I don't like any other Baz Luhrmann film. But this one I am obsessed with. And I can remember I was decorating the Christmas tree in my parents' living room and had this film on sort of in the background. And this is very near the beginning that this bit happens. But when this happened and Kylie pops out the bottle, she's the green fairy of the absinthe bottle. And just the manic energy that starts, I was just like, whoa, where, like, this is everything.
It is, yeah, it's been very quick, all the information.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time it's focused on kind of one thing, but it's still like increasing everything. Everything is going up. And then you're in Moulin Rouge, and then you meet Nicole Kidman, and it's just like this film is powering through, and it is incredible. But I do think, like, what Kylie does, and I know it's a lot of editing and special effects and whatever, but it's just like she's so well placed and so well utilized, and yeah, it's so exciting. This also, as you can imagine, this is at the height of Kylie becoming like super famous in terms of or super cool, because Can't Get You Out of My Head was just out at that time.
Yeah.
So this was an amazing time for Kylie professionally.
Yeah, so exciting, but it is just... And Moulin Rouge turns 20 years old this year, so a wonderful time to be celebrating and rewatching that film. It's just unlike anything else. It swallows you up, and I can totally understand it not being for everyone, because people might find it like tremendously overwhelming and melodramatic and just impossibly too much. But for me, it all just aligns in this frantic, wonderful way where I just get swallowed in, and I'm so happy to be soaked into it, because it's every emotion, all of it, dialed up to the most. It's everything.
The one thing I will say about Moulin Rouge and Baz Luhrmann is, there is countless songs in this film, and brilliantly used, but just use one Kylie Minogue song. Like, all you had to do was use just a line of her music.
No, that is
shame on him.
Yeah. Baz, what you doing? Come on, man. There's so many songs in there.
Again, going back to the train, Christian arrives on a train. He's like, do the locomotion.
Do the locomotion with me.
Or Zidler could have been like, it's better the devil you know.
But surely that... Oh, no, was it? No, because maybe it was too recent before it to do it. But On a Night Like This... God, they could have absolutely gone in on A Night Like This. That's ripe. And she would have probably said, go for it. It might have only been like a year old at the time, but been like, yeah. Or maybe actually at the time of making it, perhaps was too on the... Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse still. Spinning Around, Nicole Kidman, instead of Diamond Like Girl's Best Friend, could have come out to Spinning Around. You Like It Like This? Anyway, sorry. I don't know if fan fiction for the Moulin Rouge universe exists, but if it does, I'm so, after this recording, going to jump on that. That's going to be my next full-time activity.
Great. But actually, there's something I must bring up here because it's very interesting in terms of Kylie Minogue in this film. Because also, she's not in this for long. This is also a cameo, but a glorious cameo because she gets to have so much fun and is kind of the turning point of the movie. But she is the Green Fairy, but the Green Fairy was supposed to be someone else. I take it you know who the Green Fairy was supposed to be, or was that actually did it and I believe recorded it.
No, I didn't know that. Tell me.
Oh, because there's still a very small moment of it is used. So it was supposed to be
Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne, yes. So it was supposed to be like a bearded biker rocker, obviously, type, playing a sitar. And I think they recorded it, and then they did the Kylie thing. And the only bit left of Ozzy is, like you said earlier, that scream as she kind of disappears and her eyes go red. That is the sound of Ozzy Osbourne screaming, or it morphs into the sound of Ozzy Osbourne screaming. But otherwise, it's all Kylie, and they took that out. But that's a very interesting move from one thing to another. But I must say, probably great choice. I would have been interested, though. I would like to see what Ozzy did, but I'm glad it's Kylie.
Yeah, no, because it makes sense that it's this beautiful, charming yet sexy woman luring you into the Moulin Rouge and luring you into like this fantasy world.
Exactly.
Whereas Ozzy Osbourne would have just been like one of the lads.
Yeah, kind of. It's like, come on, yeah.
But at the time, God, the Osbourne show and all that, he would have been huge. So I understand why he would have been thought of in that sort of part. And did you know that this is the only film award Kylie's been nominated for? At the MTV Awards, she was nominated for Best Cameo.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fun. Oh, great. Okay, so there was one. Well done, Kylie.
But she was bet to that award by Snoop Dogg in Training Day.
For God's sake. But maybe that's a great cameo, so actually maybe I shouldn't be so mean. It's probably a lovely thing. Well done, Snoop.
So next, I guess we should talk about Holy Motors, the Leo Carax movie. And do you know how that came about?
So I watched an interview that Leo Carax and Kylie did together upon its UK premiere. And it's what I gathered was that she is a friend of film director Claire Denis, fabulous French director. And Claire Denis had suggested to Leo Carax that he should look into Kylie for one of his films. And when he wrote this, he remembered that advice and he sent her the script. And when they met in person in Paris, to quote him, he said this in the interview, he described her as an angel I needed. So I thought that was lovely.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to have made some kind of connection. And Holy Motors is a film, again, like Moulin Rouge, I would recommend watching. And I would almost recommend not listening to what we're about to say and watching this film. But it also it's a wild ride. You know, the story in its very basic elements is a man wakes up, says goodbye to his family, dresses as a businessman, gets into a limousine, and then talks about, like, so how many jobs do I have today? He has 8, and every job requires him to play different parts. And he does meet other people. So, like Kylie Minogue, she's not one of the jobs. She is an ex-lover that he meets kind of randomly throughout the day. But in other instances, he plays like an old woman who's begging on the street. He plays like a thief. He plays a father who's collecting his daughter. He plays like kind of a Quasimodo-esque character that takes Eva Mendes down into the gutters of Paris. He does a lot, and it ends with him and with like living with a different family. So, and there's a lot you can interpret in the film. And it is glorious. Again, like Moulin Rouge, I remember where I was when I saw it. I was in the Picture House at Brixton. It was absolutely thrilled by this movie.
Lovely.
Yeah, love it. And Kylie Minogue is terrific in it, and the film is terrific. She does. So Kylie comes in quite late. So the film kind of it's playful for a lot of it, and it kind of moves into a more somber tone towards the end. He's a bit lost. He's like questioning what he should be doing, even though we're not quite sure what he's doing, but we have a sense that he's an actor and he's performing in some way, and he's kind of lost his purpose. So when he bumps into Kylie Minogue, who is also in a limousine and also seems to be doing the same job he's doing, and they interact and they talk about their past, there's a real melancholic atmosphere that is just wonderful to spend time in, and wonderful to see this character be himself, or what we perceive to be himself. And then they go to this old department store and they walk up the stairs and they talk about this child they had, and there's this moment where she is swept off her feet into Denis Lavant's hands, and he carries her up the stairs, and then he very gracefully puts her down, and then she starts singing this song.
Who were we when we were who we were back then?
And it goes on for a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's just wonderful. She's so good, and she has this very pixie haircut, and I just think it's so impressive. I guess at the time I hadn't seen Kylie Minogue outside of the Doctor Who or the Kath and Kim cameo, or whatever cameos, and Moulin Rouge. And I just remember being this. She's such depth to this performance, which is not something I would expect from someone who doesn't perform that often as an actor.
Mm-hmm. Again, because it is another brief. You wouldn't call this a cameo because she's having to do a lot with the song and her segment in the film, but she's only in it for a few minutes still. But it is incredibly impressive. Just she's bringing so much, and that's why I can understand that he described her as this angel he needed, and I think he knew exactly what he wanted from her, and that's why he chose her. And she just really seems to get it. I mean, Holy Motors, I second your praise and your recommendation of it, because it is, unlike anything else, it is absolutely worth your time. It is quite something. But it's also not something that's easy to get your head around. But she seems to really understand her moment and what she has to bring. And she's just like a vessel for what he wants. I mean, not saying that because it's her bringing her own thing too, but she's just such a vessel. And weirdly, to go back to what we kind of touched upon it very briefly at the start, is kind of the comparison between, say, her and Madonna. And there was always this thing about her being the queen of pop and Madonna being the queen of pop and Kylie being the princess of pop. And the kind of the difference between the two of them being that Madonna was not scared to say anything, always at the forefront of kind of holding kind of things up and criticizing everything and being very political and all this, whereas Kylie was sort of the opposite of that and was kind of far more what's the word? Sort of not innocent, but just kind of more removed from that in her approach to pop music. But she is just, because of that, she can have this lovely vulnerability and sort of this songbird, this gentle songbird nature, which allows her to be this vessel, which is so good here. Whereas if you were, for example, to take a Madonna and put her in here, there is no way on earth that would ever work. It needs that gentle vessel type performer, both singer and actor, to be able to deliver this. And it's really, really impressive. And it stands out as one of the most moving parts of a really, really interesting film.
But it is the moment of the film where you kind of stop and think, well, what is the point? And all the things you've seen and all the impact this man has had in all these different lives, what does that amount to? And then to meet someone where all that effort didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
And they're both still sore about it, even though they've not seen each other for however many years. It's really well done. And there's a lot of I mean, I know the singing and all, but there's silence in it, and they're not like directly looking at each other a lot. There's a lot of like contemplating, I guess is the best word. And she really I think she excels. I also should say, there are many performances, every year where you're like, oh, how would, award bodies and all these people not talk about this role? I do not understand how people do not cite what Denis Lavant is doing in this film as like one of the all-time great performances.
It's incredible.
And not just because he is literally playing different parts, but because he's connecting them. And it's just so good. It's just such a good movie, and I highly recommend it. She also, in that same year, did Jack and Diane, where she turns up as this like a junkie who like makes out with Riley Keough. Is that how you say him? Riley?
Yeah,
Riley Keough, who is amazing. I'm so excited about Riley Keough, but Jack and Diane is not worth anyone's time.
She has a very interesting moment in that, though. I mean, it is just, again, a brief moment. It's kind of
atmospheric.
Yeah.
Why'd you come here tonight?
I don't know. To hang out.
It is an interesting, very brief cameo. And speaking of which, my favorite of all the Kylie cameos is, of course, San Andreas.
As is everyone's. From that classic Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson disaster movie vehicle, San Andreas.
Susan, it's nice to finally meet you.
You as well. Now that Daniel's asked you to move in with him, things must be pretty serious.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Larissa. I'll be taking care of you today. Can I tell you about our specials?
Please, I'd love to hear.
Actually, could you come back in a few minutes, Larissa?
So
it is good. She is fun. It's a fun minute.
She knows what she's so she's set up to have dinner with Dwayne Johnson's ex-wife because she is engaged to Kylie Minogue's brother, and they happen to be on the top of a skyscraper as an earthquake and unexpectedly is hitting San Andreas. The ex-wife gets a call from Dwayne Johnson to be like, you know what? Do you know what would be a smart thing to do in an earthquake? Not be in a skyscraper? So, of course, the woman turns around and says, oh, Kylie, come with me. Kylie Minogue, not having any of that shit. Kylie Minogue's like, no, I'm going to run around. I'm going to run to like, oh my Lord. She runs out a door. And that's it. Kylie's gone.
That's
Kylie's gone.
Dead.
No more Kylie.
Oh God! But it's quite something. Why do you think she did this? Just for a laugh, a bit of money? But it's so weird because. Do you think they absolutely needed it to be like a superstar in that part, or could that have been? And it's such a curious choice. I can't quite work it out, but I love it. I love that it exists in this tiny little bubble in this strange, massive movie. But I don't get it.
I feel like there's not lots of famous people in it, but there's a part of me that thinks maybe the casting thought like we'll do like an old-fashioned disaster film and we'll have like recognizable faces die.
Okay,
but
no,
they
that
don't.
Makes sense.
But that doesn't happen. Like Kylie is, and maybe this is my ignorance of non-Kylie Minogue celebrities, but I didn't know anyone else.
No, I can't. That's why I'm not so sure about the others.
She by far has the best death in it.
Yeah.
She like another cameo that came around this time was this Nick Cave documentary, 20,000 Days on Earth, where he is talking about this 20,000 day in his life, and he's reflecting, and it's a really striking documentary. And Kylie appears as herself in the back of another limo, and she has a conversation with him. It is really beautifully staged,
yeah,
and I'm not sure what is real and what's not.
Yeah.
But it's really moving. There's a bit where he asks her,
"Are you worried about being forgotten?"
Yeah, I worry about being forgotten and about being lonely.
It's just like, oh, Kylie.
Yeah. It's very moving. It's a very moving bit. It's nice that she's sort of being herself and talking, but Nick Cave is driving, and obviously he's sort of done bits which is more choreographed and staged, but the kind of hybrid crossing of these two things is really interesting. It makes for both a really heartwarming part, but also very stylistically ambitious. It's really interesting, but she's so wonderful. But also, this is a time to just go and recommend, in terms of performance, the Nick Cave, Kylie Minogue track, which you mentioned earlier, where the wild roses grow, is the most wonderful track. And I remember where I was there seems to be a recurring theme. Remember where I was the first time I heard that, and was just bowled over by it and being like, oh my God, this is Kylie. And of course it's Kylie, because it sounds like Kylie, but this is such an interesting way to hear her being used. And her and Nick Cave complement each other so well. I love that track. And I really loved seeing those two together again, because obviously they're really important to each other. I mean, they've performed the track together a lot in the years since. Whenever they can be together to do it on stage, they do, and that's a really lovely thing. It's so great, so great. Please go and listen to the track and the whole album.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and do this documentary, because I'm not a huge Nick Cave fan, but I found it like nourishing. It was like a meditation to sit there and just take it all in. And as well as Kylie, there's like Ray Winston, there's all these different conversations that happen, and it's really gorgeous. So, I mean, really the only film we have left to talk about in Kylie's career is her most recent.
Yeah.
Which is Swinging Safari is like, I don't know, like, what would you say? Because I knew about it. It's this ensemble film with people like Guy Pearce and Raja Mitchell, set in the 1960s, directed by the director of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. But it was surprising, really, what the film actually is.
Yeah, no, I found it really surprising. I was expecting, it kind of delivered half on what I was expecting, but then the other side wasn't the same. So I guess it's both a coming of age tale, which follows specifically a couple of kids in this, not family, there's 3 families, and 2 kids from different families, and sort of their kind of budding young romance and friendship. And it's this really lovely coming of age film, and a lot of it really feeds into a kind of great nostalgic energy. It feels very Australian in tone, much like other films that have kind of come out of Australia in the past, be it like A Muriel's Wedding or Priscilla or things like this. But it has this really interesting and uniquely Australian energy, and it's doing that, but at the same time it is this really kind of like raucous, grotty film about the parents of these families and them kind of taking to swinging and sleeping with each other, and them the kids kind of discovering this. So it's 2 very different things, and I guess I'd never really seen a film that is both, I don't know, like sweet and gross at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I guess it is gross. I think I've just found it a bit overall more serious than what, say, the trailer or the posters suggest. It was all a bit, I don't know, like, it's like, there's, so Kylie Minogue is described, her character, who's one of the mothers in this, like, 3 households, she's described as a tragic, dildo-loving alcoholic. And she is. That is what she, like, there is humor and stuff, but she is drunk. We see her drinking. We see her not, like, kind of agoraphobic to a point. Like, she's not really able to interact properly. Even when they're doing the swinging and all, she is so uncomfortable with it. And there's not much joy to sit and watch these characters who are all kind of unhappy in different ways. And even the children, like, there's the main guy, he's really into cinema and he's making movies, but he's also lonely and strikes up a relationship with the next door neighbor's kid who's really lonely and kind of bullied. And I don't know, I think films like Muriel's Wedding, I think so, have a dark humor, but are able to make it enjoyable and engaging and make you want to go on that journey. Swinging Safari, even it's a good film, there's something about it that made it a bit more like, oh, this is all just not very pleasant to watch.
That's it. And I actually, interestingly, comparing the two, that is something that I have a problem with Muriel's Wedding. I know that film is incredibly beloved, but I am not a fan. I don't like it, and I think it's for that very reason. But I think part of the problem with why I'm perhaps not a fan of Muriel's Wedding is that I'd heard people talking about it for years, and I thought I was going to go into it and have a wonderful time, and I wasn't in a good mood, and I thought this is going to cheer me up, and it made me feel like shit. It was not what I wanted to watch at all. And I think that's something which tonally, that kind of odd balance, is something that is in kind of a slightly different way, but is happening here, which might be a kind of interesting Australian comedic touch in filmmaking.
Yeah, and I usually be all for that. Like, as you say, Muriel's Wedding, there's like the Muriel's mother commits suicide. She tortures the lawn. She's like totally fucked over by her family, including Muriel. But it's dealt with in a way that's not, I'm not saying it's funny, but it's also not dragging the film to a really low level in terms of tone. So, but where Swinging Safari really doesn't, it struggles to try and have that kind of joy to watching it, and joy in terms of telling the story. Funny, and even more surprising than that, because I kind of thought this was a film that's going to be built around Guy Pearce. I thought Guy Pearce was the one that's going to like carry this movie through. But honestly, and maybe I'm just totally biased, but Kylie Minogue does so much to make this film enjoyable.
Yeah.
She's the adult that the important part of the film turns it around and says, we need to listen to those kids.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Just listen to yourselves. All raised shit scared, and gee, that turned out well for everyone, didn't it? The kids shouldn't be punished. They should be rewarded.
She has loads of funny one-liners. She has loads of fun things, but she's the one that seems to be, of the adults, in tune with the children, like the connecting tissue between them. Whereas the other ones actually probably just want to have sex and swing and do whatever the hell they want. Kylie sees a long-term plan somehow, or that's what she's yearning for, or that's what she wants. So I was really impressed. I thought she was as good as all the other actors who have had a lot more experience at giving performances.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, for sure. Again, it was kind of a nice thing to see her playing against type, because there are these, more problematic or darker energies, which we don't necessarily associate with Kylie, so it's a good thing to see.
Do you mean when she talks to her dog? So another dog has been murdered, and she looks at her dog, and she says,
"Should have been you."
Oh, there's loads of bits, and there's a really good scene where she's like burning her child's dolls. But yeah, an interesting one. I'm glad I watched. I did. It's kind of like a half at a good time, half not so sure, but not a bad time. I think it was an interesting one, which was fun. It was totally fun, and also it's worth pointing out in terms of kind of topicalness. A show we brought up when we were doing the Regina Hall episode a few weeks ago. Asher Keddy is in 9 Perfect Strangers as well. She's one of the mothers in Swinging Safari as well. And at this point in time, so whilst we're recording this, only 3 episodes of 9 Perfect Strangers have been released. And at this point, Asher Kennedy maybe has got the most interesting role in it. So I'm really interested to see what she does from here. But at this point, that's us. We've sort of top to bottom, step back in time with Kylie. She is the love of your life. I think it only appropriate that if you're feeling up to it, Michael, I give you a little quiz on Ms. Minogue.
Yes, I will. I gleefully accept, and if I fuck it up, sure, I'll buy myself another bottle of Kylie wine and drink it.
Oh, okay. No, fair enough. Well, that's the point. So we have to actually say that as we're recording, we are drinking Kylie's own Sauvignon Blanc. And I must say I'm enjoying it. We're not being paid to say that. I wish Kylie was giving me any money because that would mean we were in contact with one another. Or at least her people.
Yeah. Well, and this is our sponsored moment. Kylie Minogue wine tastes delicious. If she sponsored a film podcast, I think her thing would be: don't watch Street Fighter, don't watch Biodome, don't watch The Magic Roundabout, watch Holy Motors, and watch Moulin Rouge.
I think that would be the vibes. So sorry, Kylie, we didn't do that, but we are enjoying your wine as we talk about these films. And what more could you ask for? But as we say that, we will top up our Kylie wine and quiz away.
Okay, so we're back.
Our wines are topped up. Thank heavens for that. It's tasting crisp and fresh still. Huh?
I don't think I've tasted a wine quite like it.
Oh, sure.
So yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. What's the prize?
You're ready. The prize. Well, gosh, what from your Kylie fandom would please you most? Choose it.
And what would I want from Kylie Minogue? Maybe just like
what about
a nice text message?
Oh, that's very sweet. Or say, I mean, at this point in time, we're sort of kind of just coming out of kind of lockdowns and things like this. Maybe you've already been out dancing, but imagining you haven't, what if your first night out back in, say, a gay nightclub, Heaven perhaps, as a suggestion, Kylie Minogue playing her new album in full live for you and whoever you want?
Dancing to Kylie Minogue all night, I would be in my element.
All right, well, back to heaven with Kylie you shall go if you win this quiz. So for now, you could say, your disco needs you.
Woohoo.
All right, so we're going to start off with some fun Kylie trivia. Let's see how you do. Michael, what does Kylie mean in the Aboriginal language?
Unique.
In many ways, sure. It's something very Australian, actually. If you think of her as the comeback queen, even though she's never had to come back because she's always been around. Boomerang. Kylie means boomerang. Ding, 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 ding.
That sounds like a joke. Like if you had a biopic of Kylie's life and they're like, we'll call you Boomerang.
Oh, that would be a lovely moment. That would definitely happen. For sure. All right, so we all remember the video for Spinning Around and the iconic gold hot pants. Michael, do you know how much those hot pants cost?
They cost 50p from a charity shop.
They did indeed, and now they go down in history as a monumental piece of music video. Fun times.
And now they're behind like a bulletproof box in a museum. Do you know that?
No, that's amazing though. I love that. Okay, next one. Which iconic film director directed the video to Come Into My World?
That's Michelle Gondry. What a great music video that was.
That's
the one where she repeats and repeats in a circle with the shopping bag and a pink outfit or pink top and jeans. It's great.
It is so good. Michelle Gondry, to those unfamiliar, is the director of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. All right, which Kylie hit is played at 12:30 a.m. every Saturday night at London's GAY Club?
You're forgetting the most important aspect. Balloons are released from the ceiling, and it's Better the Devil You Know.
Better the Devil You Know. That is correct. He knows his Kylie, this boy.
Gays have lost eyesight from like grabbing balloons, nails getting into the eye. There's blood. There's
danger.
Trying to push those balloons and sing along to Kylie is a hard task, but some gay men are able to survive.
And I'm so pleased for those who make it through. Kylie appears in an iconic episode of Doctor Who. Her name was an anagram of what very important piece of Doctor Who dumb?
So that would be the TARDIS. So she's Astrid, and the TARDIS is the vehicle, like telephone box, that the Doctor somehow travels in.
Ding, ding,
right?
ding,
Is
ding,
that how you describe the
ding.
TARDIS?
That's, yeah, perfect. But from my perspective, there'd be people wincing, listening at home. Sorry. But that is good, actually. That sounded perfectly bang on to me. In 1989, the British newspaper The Mirror voted Kylie the best what? Pop star, actress, soap star, or rear in the world?
I don't really want to know. I don't care what the Daily Mail or Mirror said, but I'm going to assume that they would have said soap actor.
Okay, that is what you'd assume, and that's why it's interesting. They actually did say she was the best actress in the world in 1989, which is at the point we're talking about all these films which were panned so terribly.
Do you think Meryl Streep would have a lawsuit against?
I think that is, I mean, a big love for Kylie, but what in the world kind of?
So I think Maggie Smith saw that and spat on it and threw it in the fire. That's. She's like, who the fuck is this upstart?
Yeah, this is a disgrace, but there we go. It might have only been in a tiny column in a page which nobody read.
Oh, Madonna read it, and Madonna
remembered.
Was furious.
Fucking hell, she was mad.
Joking, no, we should not. Women do not hate women. That's just like some
never.
do, but that's not something we should perpetuate.
No, never.
So you know what? I think Meryl Streep sat there, saw that headline, and was like, Good for Kylie Minogue.
Good for Kylie Minogue. She seems like the best actress in the world from this film, The Delinquents. Sure.
I watched nothing of that. I'm sure she was great.
But yeah, that was a surprise to me. Anyway, well, Michael, you did pretty well on your Kylie trivia there. To be honest, with a slight help on maybe one of those. So to be honest, you still got it.
So Heaven, I'm coming. Watch out, boys. And he knows all the lyrics.
Oh, yeah, he does as well. It's quite too much to handle. But I hope you bring me along to sit in the corner and pass judgment. I'm just kidding. I'd have to be up too.
Yeah, you'd be dancing as well.
Of course. All right. Well, leaving the past behind us, let us now gaze into the future. So, speaking of gaze in the future, Michael, what would you love for Kylie in film? She hasn't had a lot of opportunities so far. She wants those opportunities. What would you like to see her get?
So, I mean, this is probably an obvious one, but Leo Carax, who obviously really enjoyed working with Kylie in Holy Motors, even for this brief time, and has Annette coming out very soon. The musical, the Sparks musical with Adam Driver and Marion Cotillard. Cotillard. Okay, I'm sorry, Emily in Paris, that I can't pronounce names, French names. I would love to see like Holy Motors 2 or some kind of version of it, but her limousine. Because she's doing the same thing, so she can play all the parts. I don't know. There's something. I mean, I don't really want to see it in terms of like that film is perfect. We don't need a sequel. There could be something totally new that she does with Leo Carax, but that's just something I was like, I would actually love to see that. And I wonder if he's thought about it because he seems like the type of filmmaker that would have for her character then just turn up in this film. So I'd just love to know what that story is.
No, I love that. And definitely.
And she could play, like, I can't even think of, but, like, imagine if she was playing wildly different people. So one could be, like, the Kylie Minogue that we know, like a pop star doing whatever. Then she could be, you know, a downtrodden housewife. Then she could be, like, a CEO in a big business making these big decisions in, like, a Succession-esque sort of atmosphere. She could then set fire to, like, some big building or something, hopefully with nobody in it, but like she could just do loads of dramatic things. Drive a motorcycle around Paris. I don't know.
Why not? All of the above.
Hmm.
Okay, love it. Well, I'll leapfrog off of that in that because she's singing in this film, this Leos Carax film, I inevitably thought musicals because in that moment she feels like a standout choice for a musical. But if say Leos Carax wanted to do another musical, then I'd be very on board for seeing her there. But we could also go down a far more obvious route in that Kylie famously sang a bit of ABBA at the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics in Sydney back in the day. So if there was to be a Mamma Mia 3, I mean, we always come back to Mamma Mia, but it feels only right that we suggest a place for Kylie. Who would she be? Maybe the long-lost pal, the missing, what do they call themselves again?
The Dynamos.
Donna and the Dynamos. Maybe actually there was a dynamo that got lost and is coming back to the fold.
I think Kylie Minogue is significantly younger than the Dynamos, no?
Well, sure, but whatever. I'm open to anything. I'm open to anything.
I would put her as Julie Walters' ultra glam daughter that turns up at the wedding of Julie Walters and Stellan Skarsgård on the island. And what song? Like, I'm trying to think what song she could sing to, like, you know, they're about to get married, and she's like, "But Mum, you're already married," and she like sings a song.
God, it's hard to even think of what like ABBA songs are left that they could go to.
Oh, I don't. I think we've gone beyond that. I think they're just going to rehash. Maybe she'll be like, "Ring, ring, why don't you give me a call?" Do you know that song? That ABBA song? She's like, "Why haven't you called me, man?"
Yes, yeah, ring, ring, yeah. Perfect.
I don't know. I wouldn't mind. She just turned and said "Dancing Queen."
Oh, just do it again. They sing that in every film anyway, so that would work. Which is what, she sang at the Olympics, so that would be a nice full circle moment for her. But then otherwise, Baz Luhrmann loves a musical. He only gave her 2 minutes in Moulin Rouge. If he wanted to come back and do a good, I don't know, I would quite like to see something original maybe for her rather than jukebox though. So maybe I can't really imagine Baz doing an original musical. He likes the jukebox musical situation. So maybe not a Baz. I just want someone. So that's why Leos Carax is immediately in my mind. But somebody prepared to put an interesting original musical out there where like the performance can be more layered and interesting, like she is giving in Holy Motors. Sort of like I mean, it's too bleak to think about, and I don't think she would have it necessarily in her to do, but like a Bjork in Dancer in the Dark, something maybe more unusual, but not as bleak as that, because Kylie is not that. She's not.
But she would. But having said that, that would be a great way to utilize her persona. Do you know the director that is coming to my mind as you describe it? Like if Yorgos Lanthimos wanted to make a musical. So Yorgos Lanthimos is the director of The Favourite and The Lobster and Alps. And he has a kind of a darkly comedic view on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he also, I feel like there's like an awkwardness to the performances, which Kylie would probably fit quite well in. And to do a musical with Kylie in the center somehow, in whatever time period they would like to do, whatever they want to do, that would be terrific. Because Kylie, I mean, this goes without saying, but she can really sing and she can really emote with her voice. So I think a musical, it would be a perfect way to utilize her.
Yeah, I think so.
And do you know who is a big Kylie fan? Is Nicole Kidman.
Is she? Is that for real?
Yeah, that's for real. She has been recorded saying that that Kylie Minogue is an icon. And I cannot, like, I've been really struggling trying to think like, how would you get Nicole Kidman and Kylie Minogue in some kind of buddy film? Like there was a part of me that was thinking like maybe an Australian Thelma and Louise or something.
Love it.
Like a road trip movie, maybe less, like more fun. Maybe they do like First Wives Club 2, but then Kylie and Nicole are like new first wives, like, or second wives even. And you have the first wives there too. So it's like Diane Keating, Goldie Hawn, Bette Midler, Nicole Kidman, Kylie Minogue, and some other person that could be involved in that. Regina Hall, let's throw her in because that would be amazing to see. And it's just this kind of raucous thing where these 6 women get revenge on their husbands.
I love it.
Why not?
Why not? Very differently to that, I then kind of thought of her, like I said earlier, about her being sort of a vessel, perhaps for a director who maybe doesn't need so much melodrama from an actor. I don't know, things like that. And I thought of Terrence Malick, and I could see her slotting really well into a Terrence Malick film. She might then only be there like she always is in films for 2 minutes because he cuts everything else. But she could be there and have great impact, and maybe he would also find her to be an angel who he had to be there and give her more time on screen. So I would be all up for that. And then I'll just throw out my other one. I was thinking then more Australian, and obviously George Miller is doing so much at the moment. I'm not sure how much she would slot into Mad Max, which is definitely his kind of next foray, is to kind of follow up Fury Road.
But do you not think she could be part of Charlize Theron's kind of...
She definitely could.
Like,
be.
she could...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely could be part of that. But I would kind of like, because obviously George Miller is also known for Babe, and there's just this kind of lovely, again, nostalgic, gorgeous energy. And I think Kylie Minogue could slot more into something if George Miller decided to venture in a more family-friendly route again. I don't know, I could see her playing really well in that. But either or, I will take a Mad Max or a Babe type, but Australia's finest working with Australia's finest to create Australia's finest.
So, yeah, my last thing is there's a filmmaker, and I'm going to pronounce her surname totally wrong, I'm sure, so please correct me. Alice Rohrwacher?
Rohrwacher.
Do you know the Italian... What? Say that again?
Rohrwacher? But maybe it's not Rohrwacher, because then why that doesn't sound very Italian, so I'm doubting myself. I've always just read it like that, because I'm Scottish. Rohr... Yeah, I know exactly who you do mean, though.
So she directed, I guess most recently it was Happy as Lazaro,
Mm-hmm.
but also The Wonders. And there's something about the film, about her work, which is kind of observing, but kind of a vessel, as you're kind of saying, like Happy as Lazaro. Like Lazaro is literally a vessel.
Yeah.
And Kylie would excel in that. I mean, so Kylie can speak French. I don't think she can speak Italian. So I'm not sure how well they might fit. But if Alice wanted to make an English language film or French film, Kylie surely would fit into that. And I feel like something like this will happen. Like you mentioned before, I think Claire Denis was thinking of having Kylie in a film, which doesn't seem to have, that film seems to have not gone forward. Kylie is on the radar of people and surely would get some financing.
Yes.
So why it's not clicking yet, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, Kylie's is still putting out a lot of music, so that is probably it, and touring and all sorts of things in non-COVID times. But hopefully something happens, and I hope it's more than like these kind of funny cameos where she's herself, or she's a kind of a joke on herself, or kind of a parody.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. The answer probably is these really top tier European filmmakers who obviously are interested. Claire Denis getting Leos Carax interested. It's there and it should happen.
Yeah, and I kind of trust that it will.
Yeah, and I think that's a good trust to have. Let us trust in it. But I suppose that brings us to the end of our Kylie episode, because I can see it in your eyes. And that one was for all the lovers. And I hope it made you all go, wow. And
you better get out of her way.
Michael's and I's two hearts were beating together as we talked about Kylie. But you're right. Get out of my way, because Even though I can't get you out of my head, Kylie, we need to move on to someone else because it's never too late to do another podcast. So let's be spinning around onto the next and do it again for the kids. But hold on, we should slow down, maybe have some chocolate.
And I'm going to put my hand on my heart and your heart and hope that you stop this this pun-tastic ending to Kylie Minogue, a celebration of her films.
Oh.
Do you think the BFI one day will show Street Fighter, Moulin Rouge, Holy Motors, The Delinquents as a retrospective of Kylie Minogue? I hope they do. I hope that does. In 20 years' time, we'll be there cheering, being like, what foolish people we were. She's an EGOT. She's got her Emmy. She's got her Tony. She has her Oscar. We should never have had her on a podcast about filmographies that are too sparse or underappreciated.
No, because they're going to have them all lined up. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. But anyway, yeah, that's Kylie. Michael, if anyone would like to get in touch with us, how can they do that?
You can get in touch with us via our email at don'tknowher@gmail.com, or our social media on Twitter and Instagram is don'tknowher_pod. And please do leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts and wherever it's possible. It's really helpful for other people to find us and to share the love.
Gorgeous. All right. Well, you had to stop me from falling. But
well, now you're reaching to like a back catalogue that nobody knows.
Oh no, stop me from no, that one's very clear in the head.
I see. Well, for Kylie and for you, it was love at first sight. And as Elton would say, and Christian, how wonderful life is now you're in the world. So thanks.
Very, very true. All right then, Michael. Into the blue we go. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And sorry, everyone.